What's going on, everybody? I am BirdDog John. Thanks for joining us today, and we are going to kick things off here. It is 1 a.m. in Melbourne right now, and that is exactly where I am. Without any further ado, I'd like to welcome Robbie to the show. What's going on, man? All right, let's see. Hey, what's going on, Judson?
Hey, thanks for having me.
I do much more. We are joined with BirdDog Ian, who is at the Capture Summit over in Atlanta. So how's it going, man?
Hot and sweaty.
That's the most important question that our team can ask. Why are you needing this camera?
Now, I haven't tested this thing since it got here. This is something that I'm really excited that NDI did. That's cool. Obviously, there are lots of flavors here, but this is the 4250 line. And our little friend here. Say hello to my little friend. It's brewing in the back of my throat. Based on the recommendation of Senseless, we're going to give a Java Monster a try.
Oh, yeah, Pocky,
We
dude.
got a little Pocky, and
Yes.
I have been putting this off for an age.
Oh, I'm so excited for you.
There is a Snacks on Stream mystery box brought to you by my Snacks on Stream manager, Brayton. What's going on, Bugsy? There you go. What's going on? Balu, good to see you, man. What's going on, NetHab? Hey, what's going on, Judson? And hey, Kevin, good to see you, man. What's going on, Jeremy? How are you? Thanks for jumping on. Oh, it's all good. Well, it is that time of the week that we will be hanging out together. I'm really excited to bring you on the show and welcome to another fun little hour of discussion of everything bird dog. Today is a very special day because I have a guest on the show and we're going to just talk about a bunch of things. And so without further ado, let me bring on my friend, Mr. Tom Sinclair. How are you, Tom?
Hey, John. Good morning. How
Morning.
are you?
I am doing well. Thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate that.
Are you kidding? Gee whiz. Most people won't have me on their show for fear of what it'll do to their ratings.
See,
you
that's
just
how-
don't care.
That's why we have to host our own shows by ourselves, because then at least we can do what we want and say what we want and not get in too much trouble. But
That's right.
awesome. Well, how have things been? Now, you just got back from a camping trip, you said?
Yes. Did a little camping over in Florida. Yep.
Okay.
Mighty
So
fine.
now, for those of you who are new to the agenda here, Tom, you are down in
I am in Alabama.
Alabama.
Right
Whereabouts
at the
in
Gulf
Alabama?
of Mexico,
Oh, really?
where we have some beautiful beaches that nobody knows anything about, but we zipped over to Florida
Yeah.
just to enjoy the beaches over there.
Well,
just to
that's
get away.
awesome.
Yeah.
I used to go down for a few years. We would go down to Panama City Beach, which is right there on the Gulf,
Sure.
and hang out there for a weekend at a big youth conference that we used to be a part of. And so that was
All right.
always a fun little memory.
We
Great.
were about 50 miles from Panama City.
Oh, nice. I keep telling my wife, I'm like, we should go and like take the kids down to Panama City Beach, and she's like, there are other beaches in this like country, right? Like, it's not the only place in the world that we could go. But anyway, we enjoyed it. Good stuff.
Good stuff.
So camping. Now, when you say camping, so the people on this show know that when I talk about camping, I'm like trekking through the middle of the woods in Northern Ontario. What do you mean by camping?
Yeah, no, we're not doing that. Camping for us involves an air-conditioned travel trailer.
Nice.
So yeah,
That's all good. There's various types. Actually, BirdDog Brayton, who is one of the guys he is the guy that does the repairs in this office. He works at a campground that kind of as a part-time thing that he does. He's a manager over there because he's worked up the ranks pretty well. And then I stole him and now he's full-time with me. But he is at a campground that also has like, places to take trailers and that sort of thing. So we're not too far removed from that. It's quite trailer camping around here is actually, there's quite a big community and culture in Michigan of folks that do that on a regular basis. Matter of fact, the place that he works, they'll like rent out their spaces for the summer. And so guys will come up from Florida and do a whole summer in Michigan, and then they'll go back down to Florida when, it starts getting a little chilly, which is right about now. It's 57, 55 degrees outside.
Well, that weather sounds really great to me.
Oh
It's
yeah.
been in the 90s down here, so yeah.
Oh wow. Yeah, it's a little breezy. I put the kids in the car. It was 57 degrees this morning, and now it's 54, I think. Something like that. So today it's been strange because yesterday was
Wrong
90
way.
or 80 degrees, and now the weather has officially shifted. Today's the first day of fall, and so it is 100% full on fall here in Michigan now. The leaves are all going to change, and
There you go.
yeah, it's the I won't say the snowball is rolling, but that's more true than I care to mention. I've got some folks on here. So for those of you who don't know, Tom is also known as Eastern Shore Broadcasting. If you go over to his YouTube page, you can find that there. He does a show. Actually, I'll let your show. When is it? And give a time zone so guys know. But run a plug for your show.
Well, actually, it's kind of funny because you are live streaming this show on my YouTube channel concurrent with yours. So,
Yep.
well done. Well done. Yeah.
Yeah, we want to be sure that we could get out to the platforms, especially people who know you and don't know the inner workings of Bird Dog. We'd like to open them up to options as well, and vice versa. I mean,
The
again,
inner workings of Bird Dog. Oh,
Yeah,
I
that's-
like it. Oh,
that's-
this is going to be
that's
good.
what we cover here at the show. And like you said, if like you said yesterday on your show, which I was hanging out in the background, and if we get bored, then we do all sorts of other things, as you saw in the bumper video. They make me eat spicy food sometimes, or they give me strange candy from other countries just to see how I'll react. So Brayton, same guy that I was just talking about, he is my official Snacks on Stream manager, and he always finds something odd. And then Balu, who is another guy that works in my office, he supplies us with, he goes to the store and finds things to try. And so there are things out on the counter for next week's shows of spicy things that I'm going to attempt to eat again. So like you said, if we get bored, we fill the time somehow. But yeah, that is what we're doing. But anyways, I'd love to. Now, you and I did an interview, which is kind of the first crossover that this channel and your channel have had at NAB.
That's true.
And so we
Back
did a
in
little
April.
1 hour chat together. That was before you. Did you know I came down with COVID like the next day?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was not good, man. And I spent a few extra days in Vegas that I didn't plan on spending at a very shady hotel. This is so weird, but it was very shady. Thankfully, unbelievably, it was all covered by the government. So they paid for all my meals and the room because I was volunteering to isolate for 5 days.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so I went over there. It was like 2 days after you and I had hung out, and I got real nervous because I was like, "Oh man, I've been interviewing people and hanging out,
but affected thousands of people."
Yeah, exactly. But it turns out the people that got sick with COVID that I know of interacted with me on my last day on the floor, which was Tuesday. And so you were with us on Sunday or Monday. I can't remember which one, but none of those folks, nobody that I interviewed apart from the Bird Dog guy, Alessandro, nobody that I interviewed came down with COVID. So yeah, we'll knock on wood. Something was little divine intervention there going on.
Yeah.
Anyway, so the last time we hung out, the last time we did something like this would have been in April. And that was the first real crossover between this channel and yours. And and then we've been kind of creeping on each other's channels ever since. So
yeah. I'm always creeping. If I find myself with nothing to do on a Tuesday or Thursday, I'll say, what's John up to?
Yeah, what are they up to?
Or if I have a question, I'm like, let's see if I can embarrass him with my question.
That is actually a great goal. I told you on that podcast. And by the way, if you guys don't have any idea what we're talking about, go over to the Bird Dog YouTube page, the one with the green symbol, and just look up NAB podcast interviews, and you'll see an interview between Tom and I. And do that after the show. But anyways, I told you at that show that I stole your format of how I talk about devices on my channel, that I don't do a lot of like prep work. I actually try and unbox it on the channel, and like experience it with the crowd, because it gives a very unfiltered but a real honest opinion then about, like, how did this work or not work or anything like that. So I try not to do a whole lot of, and it's actually,
Authentic.
yeah, it's happened. It's worked well for me even when it went south.
Sure.
But it seems to be the right reception, at least. So I totally stole that from you, and I'll give you credit every day because it's your tactic. But yeah, it's good stuff.
Well, the idea is, John, that if people are going to trust you,
Yeah.
they know, number one, if I see somebody that's perfect all the time, I don't trust, because I know something's been edited out, because sooner or later they've screwed up.
Yep.
Sooner or later they've done something that made them look like an idiot, and they didn't want to have that as part of their broadcast.
Right.
We've dedicated an entire channel to being idiots. Our YouTube channel is called Streaming Idiots.
Yeah.
Because sooner or later, when you're live streaming, you do something that you say, "Oh man."
So we had a party at NAB with the Streaming Idiots community, and when they introduced you, it was something like head of the idiots or something like that.
Yeah.
And I was
Idiot,
thinking
yeah.
about that today, and I was like, how do I say that with it? Like, to me, it sounds extremely insulting. You'd be like, and now Tom Sinclair, who's graciously decided to join us, he's King Idiot of the Streaming Idiots over on his channel. Like, I don't know how to work that in where doesn't sound insulting. But Tom said it first. His channel is called Streaming Idiots, and that's that's part of the format. So tell us a little bit about how that kind of came about, because I think it's super interesting.
Yeah. It came to me in the shower one day.
Okay.
I said, everybody that's doing live streaming sooner or later forgets to hit the record button, starts a stream without their mic on, has trouble making connections. They do something silly and stupid, and they feel like an idiot. Well, let's get all the idiots together in one place so that we can share our experiences and learn from each other. And a community was formed. It's really funny that we were doing the Streaming Idiot show, and a couple of folks that were regular viewers on the show said, "Hey, well, let's start a Facebook group for the Streaming Idiot show. Maybe we'll get 50 people to join. Wouldn't that be fun? And then we can talk about stuff in between the Wednesday shows." And they started this Facebook group hoping to get 50. I checked the other day; it had over 5,000 people in it that are just, they're just idiots. They're trying to figure out this stuff as best they can.
Yep.
And what better place to do it than in the middle of a group of people that have done the same thing?
Yeah.
And that's the appeal.
We have found that, I have found that, at least working in support, where a lot of people that come to us are just trying to figure it out for the first time,
Sure.
They see a product like vMix, or they see a product like a BirdDog camera or something like that, and they want to integrate that into their system or into their live stream or church service or whatever. And they're not broadcast people. Like, those are not the people that are opening the tickets. The people that are in broadcast have probably seen it all. They know what they're kind of getting into, and okay, it's a camera, it does this, these are,
and they've already fixed it themselves.
Yeah, exactly. They've got years of experience, but there is a real desire for a place, which is, I think, what you're doing well, and what I'm trying to put together, where it's just like, just come and talk to us about what's going on, or just come and like for the BirdDog channel. And this is something I've talked about a bunch on this show, is come and find out who we are. Like, we're real people, and we're not sitting in a call center somewhere, answering phone calls and reading from a generic script. We're not doing that sort of stuff. Like, we're genuinely here, boots on the ground, trying to do it ourselves. Like, I run a show twice a week with all BirdDog equipment, and obviously then things that we don't make, I have to use StreamYard and a few other things, but we're trying to do this stuff and produce professional. Now, we can talk about that. You brought it up on the show the other day, so I thought, on yesterday's show, and so I was like, ooh, we could talk about that, because again, people on this show know that I'm not a huge vMix user. I have used it, and I definitely think it has its place. but I've also tried to use OBS, which was fine. I gave up on it on the day that Dan Mile was on the show with me in this studio. He was visiting, and I had him on here, and it just was struggle busting it along. And I don't know if it was doing that the whole time and I just was looking past that, or if it was acting up at that point, but it could not handle two camera shots, and I had them kind of crisscross. We're both sitting at this table, just wouldn't do it. So I graduated to Wirecast and ran that for a while, but that's a different workflow than the scenes and the, like the way that you map it out in OBS, which is it's kind of a cross between how vMix runs it, as I've kind of experienced. Wirecast kind of does its own thing, and again, it has its place. It's just, I don't think it's as versatile as the vMix flavor, because vMix hits such a broad audience. Now, one of the things that the reason why I went to StreamYard, and I'll validate it, and then you can tell me what I'm doing wrong. The reason why I went to it was I was following the Johnny Depp Amber Heard trial that was going on, and I was following it on YouTube, but I was following it on a YouTube page of a lawyer who was giving real-time lawyer advice about the case while it was happening, and talking about, okay, this is the tactic they're trying to set up, or this is what they're doing to kind of like paint this picture. And it was like really fascinating, because you could see then how the lawyers in the case were actually trying to set up the story and the situation. And then of course they were giving their own report cards as to how it was going. Well, anyways, the lawyer would have on like 9 other lawyers, and he'd invite them on, and they'd all be, in the chat together, and they'd all have this real-time chat. Well, come to find out, they were using StreamYard. And so I thought, what I really want to do with the show is have the ability to bring people in flexibly, like bring them in like this, where I send you a link, and it's it's easy for you to join, but also, which I know is a vMix capability, but also to set it up a couple of different ways where I can utilize NDI tools, manipulate my camera, run my studio, but keep it pretty lean in terms of what's required. And I've always shied away from vMix just because I don't have a very powerful machine, and a few other personal reasons. But my machine is not super powerful, so this is all web-based, where I log into a website, I create the show, it connects the RTMP streams as we are doing with your channel today. It connects them for me. I can stream out to like 8 different destinations, so several on Facebook, several on YouTube, your own custom one, and a Twitch account, which is the original place I was streaming to. So it just kind of fit where I wanted it. It's the flavor that I'm using right now. I've used multiples though. I've used Stream.io, and I've used Resi and a few other things, and I've just kind of landed here. So CJ was going to join us here today, and he's also the vMix fanboy in the company, one of them. Actually, to be honest with you, BirdDog is a vMix. They work very closely with vMix, almost closer than I think TriCaster, to be honest with you, but we we won't publish that too loudly. But yeah, CJ uses vMix a fair bit. He uses it in his own studio setup at home. And I can't speak very well to the use cases. I'm pretty sure all the things I just explained to you, vMix would do. Question, how many destinations does vMix do? Like the RTMP streams and that sort of thing. Is it multiples? Is it tiered? Is it licensed?
The $60 package of vMix will do 3 destinations. The $1,200 package of vMix will do 3 destinations.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Why is that?
Well, the $1,200 package of vMix also does 8 camera instant replay, which is a $250,000 value. Right. It also will do 8 channels or 8 guests of the vMix call. Will control PTZ cameras. Will control live stream 4K. There's a list that goes on and on and on and on and on. The $60 version will take, I think, maybe 2 cameras and a graphic.
Okay.
and it's pretty well limited at that point. But it just depends on what you want to do.
Right.
And
Right.
and a lot of people go into this and they say, I want to find the solution. And what I found is vMix is really more like a Lego set.
Hmm.
You design your own solution based on what your needs are. Because vMix will do this and this and this and this and this and this and this. And if you want to be able to hit a button and have 23 things happen all at once, vMix will do it.
Right.
If you want to have a video running and at the conclusion of vMix, at the conclusion of the vMix, at the conclusion of the video, to have 23 things happen all at once, vMix will do that. It's incredibly flexible. It'll run in the cloud, so you can spin up a server up in the cloud somewhere and take SRT camera feeds into it.
Okay.
So it's a Swiss Army knife made in Australia.
Yeah. Yeah. I have heard that a lot about vMix. The automation stuff that happens like after an event or after something triggers. Like I know you use X keys on your show, and are those all API commands integrated with vMix, or is that something like in-house that they do, or what is that?
It's a shortcut that executes an API command.
Okay.
So think of it like a macro.
Gotcha. Yeah. So I have a childish version of the X keys that you have.
Yeah, there you go.
But I do have actually
I
bought this like 7 years ago.
Uh-huh.
And still works. And
of course.
Really straightforward user interface. I do have a Stream Deck here that's like has its own things. And when I was running OBS, you can set the triggers to that. It's LCD and yada yada yada. But
yeah,
the X keys version it definitely, I don't know, I think it's more flexible right now than Stream Deck. And it's a shame because Stream Deck is very pretty, but X keys just it's such a basic device.
Yes.
That it enables them to do like pretty much any sort of level of integration. The one thing I can't seem to integrate is StreamYard. So that's apparently coming, but as is all things in the future, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, so you were talking here, and I wanted to catch people up on my channel. You run a company called Eastern Shore Broadcasting.
Yes.
And what is it, and what do you guys specialize in? What do you do?
We design and build PCs for live streaming primarily, and so churches and schools and colleges and individuals, and you think of an industry that wants to do live or recorded video, they're approaching us and saying, how can we solve this problem? We had a big TV holding company, owns 50 TV stations, approach us, and they want to retrofit all 50 of their TV stations with vMix stations as backups and portables.
Oh, nice.
So that in the event of a weather emergency, they can take their entire studio in a box off-site and be back on the air in minutes.
Yeah.
And so we came up with an initial design for them and have been building that system over and over and over again for their various TV stations throughout the country. We've got a couple underway right now. And that's one end. The other end is, we'll get a church call us and they say, we cobbled something together during COVID using an iPhone and a tripod and some duct tape.
Yep.
And now we're ready to really do what we want to do because we've proven the point that this is a valid part of our ministry.
Right.
And so we'll sit down with them and kind of design something that's within their budget, and we'll help them, go to where they want to go. And just little things that may not have anything to do with hardware, software. For example, Facebook is a great place for churches to live stream, because if you schedule your live stream in advance on Facebook, it notifies all the folks that like your church's page that you've scheduled it for next week, next Sunday. And then next Sunday, it'll send people a reminder. And so it's a great way to get folks in for that live broadcast. But Facebook does a terrible job of archiving. YouTube, on the other hand, is an excellent archive.
Yeah.
So if you use vMix, you can stream to both of them simultaneously, and the YouTube becomes your archive, or you can upload it to YouTube later, upload a recording later. We do that a lot at our church because we have limited bandwidth.
Right.
So we'll stream one to Facebook, I think 720p, and then we'll record a 1080p, 60 in fact, that we'll upload to YouTube later for archive purposes. And we've been doing it for about 7 years at the church. And anyway, so having such a, and I brought my my pirate broadcast team. This is our local high school, and I've been working with them for about 6 or 7 years, getting them up to speed and then helping them stay up to speed using vMix and other equipment that we've supplied with them. I have a friend that that has been doing football for the longest time using vMix, and just bought a trio of BirdDog P200s and a BirdDog keyboard to use for some of his sports broadcasts.
Oh yeah, the legendary combo pack.
Absolutely. So I'm which of course is no more, but I'm interested to see, as he gets some experience with that, how that's working out for him. Because sometimes it's a little tricky to do quick movements that have a fixed start place and a fixed end place, and you got to get it right the first time when you're using a joystick as opposed to a manual camera. So yeah, but it's fun to work with all sorts of different people with different needs. I mean, every day is a different problem to be solved, and the solutions are the fun part of it. Well, the problems are the fun part of it. The solutions are just the cream.
Right.
So, Eastern Shore Broadcasting, we represent BirdDog. We represent PTZ Optics, another camera maker, kind of a value brand. We represent vMix. We have since the very beginning. We represent X Keys, and all those together sometimes get bundled in a package, to provide a complete solution to somebody that needs it. So yeah, that's what we do.
Yeah, that's great.
It's a ton of fun.
Yeah, I'm curious from your perspective in regards to the keyboard and live events and churches and that sort of thing. So, we keep going back and forth about PTZ control. I keep going back and forth. This may not interest anybody but me. PTZ controlling live camera movements on like a stage subject. When the option to do zoning on a PTZ with presets is also prevalent. So like some people want that manned operator look, but there's when it goes to video over IP and NDI metadata and commands, and all that, it almost makes more sense to set up camera shots for zones and call those and then switch between those shots than it is to try and manually, control a camera on a joystick. Especially a lot of churches I'm finding it's like one or two guys running the thing every single week, and it's not, and it's two guys, meaning that's their whole tech crew, right? Where they're guys doing sound and light and slides, and then they've introduced this stream thing, and now he needs a secondary technician because you just can't do four. And lights are sometimes on and off, and then sound is the guy standing at the soundboard and he's got a next button or a mouse next to him to advance the slides. But, it's those smaller groups, because I do feel like there is a fairly significant learning curve when it comes to learning to do manual joystick control on a PTZ camera and doing it correctly, like doing it so it's not a distraction.
Sure.
So if you get a call from a church, where do you go? Do you kind of go down both alleys and let them decide, or do you make a recommendation in that regard, or what do you do? Because, we're constantly talking to folks that are, well, we just got these, we need help setting them up. And then you kind of show them how to do it. And then they're kind of all over the place with the joystick. It's like, you know what, like, let's just try a few zone ideas first, or consider this philosophy. So I'd be interested to know what you say to folks.
I think the first thing that we do is we try to kind of get an idea where they are in terms of their technical expertise, because we don't want to propose a solution that requires a certain amount of savviness in this technology, and these folks are starting down here. We want them to be successful with what they do from the very beginning. So for most folks, we're starting out with no movement whatsoever. They've got 2 or 3 cameras, and we're switching between cameras. And while the camera is not live, then it's moving.
Right.
If they have a preacher that's a walker and he's walking from one side to the other, we've just got a wide shot. And we're taking the easy path as people begin to adjust to the technology. And what I find is, after a year or so, people say, okay, well, now I'd like to follow the movement. Well, just so happens that the bird dog crazies back in Australia have unlocked some secret pouch of goodies inside the camera that now allows the camera to follow a movement with no interaction from the operator. So that becomes a great solution. Or as simple as what we do at our church, we have one camera. It's a PTZ camera. The only way to get from point A to point B is for everybody to watch. And so we've slowed it way down.
Right.
And we've allowed the camera to very slowly transition and zoom and pan and tilt and whatever it needs to do from point A to point B.
Now vMix
and we do it manually.
Will do some of that, right? Will vMix do?
Oh yeah, vMix does camera control.
Yeah, like an actual cruise control option in vMix, right?
Like a point A to point B control.
Right.
Yeah. And depending on the camera, it might be a smooth transition or it might be a stair step, just depending on how that camera is configured.
I see. Is that a repeatable command? So you could like set it up where you click the button, it goes from A to B, it waits, and then it goes back to A, and it waits for you to do it again. So like a graduation, kids are walking across the stage, and you want to repeat that shot over and over and over again.
You can do that.
Okay.
Probably with a trigger.
Yeah.
That says, when after a certain amount of time that this shot has been, if you're transitioning from point A to point B, when it gets to point B, you wait 5 seconds and then move back.
Yeah. Okay.
Sure.
Yeah. Cause then anyways, I just dreaming and thinking out loud that's like one of those pieces of information that you just tuck away and somebody's going to ask you in the future and then you at least have it. So,
but I'll tell you, John, I am not a big fan of camera movement at all.
Yeah.
In live streaming, because there's so many pitfalls, there's so many potholes that you can fall into if you don't have enough bandwidth, and so you have to lower your bit rate. Any kind of movement of the camera is going to really look janky on the screen.
Right.
Much better. In fact, if you watch, I'm a big fan of American football, college and pros. And if you watch the cameramen there, they don't do a lot of panning.
Right.
They do a lot of zooming in, zooming out, and then switching to another camera that has the shot that they want. They're not, when the punter punts the ball, they're not following the ball through the air. They're not zooming down the field with the camera to get to the other end.
Right.
They're just not doing it because it doesn't look good.
Well, and with the only real big pan that I can think of with American football is the kickoff, right? So they're going to kick it off, and then you'll have that super wide shot of the whole field, and it's literally like probably 20 degrees they turn, because they have such a wide shot. They don't have to move very much to get from one end of the field to the other.
That's right.
And that is a lot less disorienting. So tell me why is it that you would shy away from movement in a live stream? Like, just what's the preference there?
Because it doesn't look good. Again, depending on the bit rate and the resolution and the frame rate, you can get all sorts of artifacts in there. It's just the experience of having done it for a long time. I mean, there's sometimes where you just have a ghost of a character running down the field, and his ghost is trying to catch up with him.
Right.
And that's why the pros don't do it.
Yeah.
You
find that a lot in hockey. Like,
we want it to look good. Yes. Yeah. Hockey and basketball are tough.
Yeah.
Because you've got a smaller space with a lot of action.
But you're right. Like, they only cut between the main shot, which is center ice, and it's that 20-degree, 30-degree turning.
Mhm.
They only cut to like close-up shots on those when there's not really a lot of movement going on. The movement is left to the wide shot.
Right.
And then when the play is stopped, then they kind of, do a tight shot in on a player or on a referee or something. But generally it's not fast movement. That is the close-up shot. So
And I don't know about hockey, but I know about basketball. And the close-up movement ends up being in the replay, not in the live shot.
Interesting.
And so you've the replay operator has looked at his 4 cameras, or if he's running vMix, it's 8 cameras, and he's picked out which is the best shot, which is the one that's in focus, which is the one that doesn't have any kind of artifacts in it. He says, okay, that's the one we're going to play. And so that's the one where we actually get down in closer to the action. Now, for example, I was watching a football game the other day, and they have the sky cam, that's on the wires, and they can lower that thing right down to the ground, so they can get in behind the team huddle, and then they can draw back and they can move it all around. And there's a lot of movement. I find that movement a little uncomfortable, even though it's an interesting shot.
Yeah,
I kind of lose perspective on where I am.
Well, it's and you would never be in that position ever in a game, like as a spectator, or even as a player. Like you never be hovering over the team huddling. So it's like it's a very like, this is a cool shot, but this is almost like surreal because I'm not supposed to be here. That sort of thing.
Yeah, and it's an interesting shot. It's like a little bit of spice.
Yeah,
but you don't want a lot of spice.
Yeah, you don't want to overdo it.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Let's we're here to watch the football game, not be impressed by the camera work.
Right.
In fact, if the camera work is good, nobody should notice.
Now you're starting to sound like me. So my rule with IT work is, if you're doing everything correctly, no one will know that you were doing anything at all.
That's right. That's exactly right. It is exactly right. You anticipate all the problems and you take care of them in advance, and you be invisible.
Yeah, exactly. That's I used to say that's why the tech guys, the backstage guys, always have to wear black, because you're not supposed to know they're back there.
That's right.
They're supposed to just disappear.
Yeah, I noticed your set. You're just about disappeared.
Yeah, I have a hair light, but on a black shirt it doesn't work. I don't normally wear black, but it's one of my bird dog shots. I also have let's see if I have this shot. So that's a little more of that's the desk and the setup. Actually, somebody on Tuesday had said, "Oh, show us like your setup, like your studio setup." And I thought, I don't have a camera to show my studio setup, so I have PF 120, and that's that's how that goes. So we've got that secondary shot going on, which is nice.
That's cool. Well, what I'm sending you today is actually an output from vMix.
Oh, nice.
So I can give you a little shot of my studio.
Oh, very cool.
And you can see green screen in front of me.
Yeah.
Mic off to the side. I'm not a big fan of showing the mic. I want to just appear. I don't want anything between me and the viewer.
Yeah. I put mine right in front of my face because I like to hide from people. So.
I think there's something to that. And then, of course, you see the BirdDog P400.
Now, I was going to say that's not an entry level BirdDog camera right there. That's a
no.
That's the real deal.
That's the beauty of being an integrator, is you get to play with all the good toys.
That's true. Yeah. So now you stream out of so I was just talking to the guys about this yesterday and today. You stream to YouTube in 4K out of vMix, right?
Yes.
And so that's full quality out of that 400 that you're pulling. You're running 2160/30.
Yes.
Okay. So yeah, that's something. And then you're running a green screen. If you've gone over to Tom's channel while we've been talking, you'll obviously notice that his set is pretty more advanced than mine. But you're running a whole bunch of stuff. Now vMix is handling all that green screen graphic and everything as well. Boom. This is the here, let me get rid of the name tags, and we can appreciate this in all of its glory.
That's that's the regular shot. And you notice when you took the lower third away, mine went away too. Just
Right.
coincidence.
Yes.
But it's called a trigger in vMix, which keeps the lower third up there for, I think, I don't know, 25 seconds or something like that.
Oh, nice.
And then it takes it out of the way, because there's nothing that says, I'm trying to appear like a professional as to have a lower third in front of me all the time. I'm not a professional. I'm an amateur.
Well,
I just do this for fun.
See, that's
But a friend
up for
sent me
debate,
this
Tom.
video clip about 8 years ago.
Yeah.
And it's a 20-second clip, and we just have it roll on and on and on. And then we're using chroma key here. So if we turn the chroma key off, let's see if I can give you a shot where we can do that.
I appreciate your green screen setup, because I've always thought that green screen can either be done well or done poorly.
There we go.
And the poorly one done is you can still see like the green outline on the body, but yours, I think maybe your green screen is a little further behind you than most people put it, like right behind them. But yeah, there's a little bit of distance.
Oh, maybe 10 inches.
Yeah. Okay.
So
Gives
not
a
much.
little bit of space.
And you notice all the wrinkles?
I do notice the wrinkles.
But when you turn the chroma key on, the wrinkles are gone.
Interesting.
The key is lighting.
Yeah.
Lighting is the key. We light the green screen separately, then we light the subject.
Yep.
So you've got the green screen lit, you've got the subject lit. Today I'm not using a hair light, but in the past I have.
Sure.
But I'm a glasses wearer, like are you. So I have to be really careful about my light placement, because I don't want to have any reflection if I can help it.
Right.
Or at least keep it as much as low as normal. With the StreamYard, I'm trying to have right in my line of vision, you and me, so that I can see what people are seeing. But it's got a white background in the browser. Right. Whereas with vMix, I've got vMix everything dark, and everything else that I'm looking at dark, so that I get as little reflection here as possible.
That's an interesting suggestion. After every stream, they ask, like, what could be better? And totally a dark mode would be. Hey, I also want to bring in CJ, who's another bird dog guy who's joining us. I asked guys, hey, Tom's going to be on if you want to jump on with us. So we'll bring CJ into the mix. How's it going, man?
Hello.
Welcome. Welcome.
You guys hear me?
Yes,
hey,
absolutely.
Hey, Tom, how's it going?
It is, well, how much better could it get than to be on John's show live for the very first time ever?
All right. Well, now we're getting a little ridiculous, everybody.
You're gonna make him blush.
That's right. Yeah. I'm gonna have to take the reds out of this camera just so you don't see me go flush on my cheeks.
I was gonna say, yeah, and y'all have the pretty contrasting backgrounds here. I like it.
It's true. Yeah.
Well, let's do a little bit of that. There we go.
Yeah, I'm gonna move my whole StreamYard over to another screen here. There we go. Awesome. Yeah, there you go. Perfect. Now you look angelic.
That's right. I am in the light.
Yeah, so I added some green lights to my show the last couple of weeks, and I got rid of them today because I didn't get rid of them. They're still here. They're just on the wall. First of all, they're not strong enough, but when you add this lighting with green neon lights, it makes me look jaundice. And so I decided that wasn't probably the look we were going for. So I do run it on this second. You can't really see them. They're on the floor there, but you can't really tell. But they're just not very strong. And so I need to get kind of like what my hair light is. It has a variable intensity. And so I should get those instead, and then shine them on the back wall or something like that.
What's your backdrop?
It's just a black scrim. Yeah.
Oh, well, then do it virtually.
Okay. Walk me through that.
Well, just get an overlay that's got a lot of green dots on it, or whatever you want.
Yeah.
Throw it behind you. Will StreamYard do overlays?
It has something that says overlays, but not green screen overlays. I'll look into that.
But I mean, well, let's see. Do I have something here I can show? No. But we could make a Photoshop or whatever and put a green bird dog logo on it.
Yeah.
And make it look fluorescent. We could even do it as a movie clip so that it kind of fades in and out a little bit.
Yeah.
And then you just it has a transparent background, and you just drop it right there, and it looks like it's attached to the wall behind you.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
You got to get the glowing neon signs that we've had at trade shows behind you or something.
Oh man, that would be so slick if I could steal one of those. I know they're in storage in
You could do it virtually.
Vegas, so we could do it virtually.
Get Unreal Engine and show off the 3D plugin.
I think we're overestimating the power of the machine that I'm using.
That's fair.
Because
it's easy stuff.
It's definitely having a go here today for some reason. So I'm trying to just keep it like Chrome is open, of course, and so it's like just can't handle it at all. But
Chrome is kind of a hog.
It is always been a hog, but
yeah. Sometimes I open up my task manager and Chrome is like taking up 50% of my resources. And it's just like I'm watching YouTube. Like this should not be doing that. So
that's one of the joys of being a PC builder is that I get to play again with all the big fire breathing toys.
Yep.
So power is not something we lack.
I was going to ask you about that because I know you're designing computers for vMix in particular. Do you have any and I won't hold you to it, but any off the cuff specs for somebody that's looking to install, the $60 version of vMix? What sort of specs on their Windows PC do they need to be running?
Yeah, vMix has done a lot of work on that, and their website has got what they call reference systems. So based on particular jobs that you want to do, it's like, okay, I need to move all the furniture out of my house. I need a truck. Well, do you need an 18-wheeler or do you need a pickup truck? Well, vMix says, if you need an 18-wheeler, here's the vMix version of an 18-wheeler.
Yep.
If you need a pickup truck, here's the vMix version of a pickup truck. And it lines out, what the CPU would be, what the graphics card would be, how much memory you would need, how much storage you would need. In some cases, they'll even recommend a case that you would put it in if you were to build it yourself.
Right.
Or if you were to go out and spec and say, okay, I want to go to one of the box stores and try to find something, here are the specs you need. You need 16 gigs of RAM, and you need for vMix, 16 gigs of RAM does everything you'll ever need in vMix, no matter what size it is.
Really?
Our biggest, baddest systems, people will pay us extra to put RAM in that they'll never use just because they want to be able to say they have 32 or 64 gigs of RAM, but it only needs 16 for vMix. Oops, excuse me.
That's interesting.
The new solid state hard drives, well, they're not new. They've been out for years and years and years that mount directly to the motherboard.
Yeah.
You talk about the joy. I mean, I'm an old 8-inch floppy disk drive user from way back.
Yep.
And you pop that sucker in and you wait for things to load.
You got to crank down the closing hatch too, right? You got to make that big
go
click.
Get a cup of coffee, come back, and you're ready to go. Well, with an M2 solid state drive, I mean, it's like instant. Boom, there you go. That's what old people like me have been waiting 50 years for.
Well, and the instant boot up time and stuff too. Like I noticed I put SSDs in my machine at home before we moved to this office, and I was like, all right, let's install Windows on one of these, as that's what it's going to do is the boot drive.
There you go.
And it's like a couple of seconds.
And even doing just like hard drives or SSDs before was kind of a pain because you had to like plug it to the power supply.
Yep.
With the M.2s, it's like putting a stick of gum. Just you take it out and you one screw and you're done.
Yep.
So it's really nice and user friendly. I think is like the biggest thing, which is great. So
and it's lighter weight than a hard drive.
Mm-hmm. Doesn't take up any space.
Yep. No moving parts.
You don't have to find a spot in the case for it.
That's right.
Interfere with something. And Tom, for you, correct me if I'm wrong. Like business wise, you guys do a lot of vMix builds, right? For PCs. Yeah. And that's kind of your bread and butter.
99.9%.
Very cool. And so are you guys looking forward to all the new stuff coming out in terms of like graphics cards, or do you guys try to only refresh every year or?
Well, here's the thing with vMix and graphics cards. I was talking with Martin about that. Martin's the founder and the coder for vMix. You guys have met him. And he said vMix uses the CUDA cores, CUDA, CUDA cores. So if you want to see, which card should I get, don't pay attention to anything else, or at least not first. Start with CUDA cores, measure the CUDA cores. Then you can look at RAM, and other kinds of things. But it's the CUDA cores that vMix takes advantage of. So the new PCs, or excuse me, the new cards that came out last year, like the 3080 Ti and the 3090 Ti, those rascals had like 10,000 CUDA cores. The system that I use at my church has, I think, 1,200.
Wow.
It's a system we built years ago. It's got a GTX GeForce 750 Ti. It's got a little hand crank on the side of it.
I was gonna say that card's old for sure.
A little hamster wheel.
Yeah, really. But CUDA cores are the key. And so the 40 series coming out are supposed to be 4 times as powerful as the 30 series. So I can't wait to see. But vMix uses a lot of the processing power on the graphics card to process video.
Mm-hmm.
So if you've got cameras, or you're doing live streaming, or you're doing recording, you're going to be using the graphics card. If you're using NDI uses very, very little graphics card capability. It's primarily CPU.
Mm-hmm.
So we had a client come to us and they said, well, we want to bring in 8 NDI sources and 8 camera sources. So we went out and got the biggest, baddest Intel CPU we could find. It was an 18-core monster. And the biggest, baddest video card, I think it was the 3090 Ti. And, put it all together, and it was just fire breathing. It was just incredible amount of power.
Wow.
And they're loving it. And they do stuff for ESPN, so they needed the right equipment.
Nice. Yeah, I come from doing live sports, and I built my fair share of vMix computers. I think the biggest challenge was always size, or being able to make it travel worthy.
Yes.
And still have enough punch to do like a multicam shoot. And so that was always the biggest challenge, is finding a graphics cards that was, as you said, fire breathing, but not also that took up the whole size of the case. And so that was always the biggest challenge I thought, was finding something that was a nice balance of size and power.
Yeah, we finally got them under 800 pounds, so we're happy.
You didn't have to have a forklift or something.
Yeah, that's right. No, a nice little short 4U case, and stick it in a Pelican travel case or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of the combination we've hit on, and that seems to be working pretty well.
Nice.
Yeah, I was going to say, so with the portable stuff, CJ, like what would you gravitate towards generally with that? Like if somebody says, I want to be able to pack this up and fly it out to my location and do, 3-4 cameras.
The biggest thing was always trying to get a motherboard that was small, that could also have SDI capture cards or HDMI capture cards. And kind of everyone has their own different thing of what they want in terms of what is your camera show, SDI, HDMI, or are you going for NDI? Obviously, you could have some people that are going to go, I want it all. And so that's where you're kind of in a tough spot. If it's NDI only, I would just send out a laptop. Like I used to just send people gaming laptops, and I would do 3 BirdDog studios and cameras, and then that was the show, and it worked great. If people wanted SDI capture cards, I would try to do micro ATX builds to where they were smaller form factor.
Yep.
I've done some 4U builds. I also managed to do 3U builds as well. That was a little trickier to find.
Oh, yeah.
And usually the cooling was the thing that struggled, because you couldn't fit a big old, you couldn't fit like a radiator in it. So
right,
you'd have to get like server CPU coolers, which sound like jets taking off. And so people are like, is this supposed to sound like that? And you're like, yes, it is. Don't worry. Yeah. Kind of when you turn off any enterprise switch or appliance or something, it sounds like the Netgear M4250s. When those don't have their silent fan mode, you think something's about to explode when you turn those on.
It's almost like you can't talk over them. They're running so hot, like they're just so loud. And honestly, so in a year or so, we're probably going to end up moving out of this location into our own spot, and I'm going to have a server room, and you better believe it, I'm going to run those things at full cool, and they're going to scream, and I've got a half a dozen of them, and I'm like looking forward to. I'm such a network nerd. It's like I can't wait to make those things like run as cold as they possibly can, but I can't do it because I got one in here that's handling the P200, the 120, and a bunch of other things. And it's like it has to be quiet. And
That's
so
not
it's
what you want people to
it's
hear.
on quiet mode right now. You can even turn it off on the 4250.
Mhm.
But yeah, those jet engines and those things.
Yeah. Yeah, I had a call with it was a church. So that's my dog. Church customer, and he was like worried on the phone. You could hear the worry in his voice when he turned on the switch the first time. And I was like, "No, that's fine. You're good."
Yeah, it'll back off.
But yeah, just to fit the micro ATX board, we would get a small case for it, and it was a lot more travel friendly. And we would just kind of put that in a foam cutout case. And then we had little foam inserts. Yeah, kind of. Well, not with the screen, the Foxbox style. Those are cool.
That's so fancy.
We kind of had a similar form factor to that, and then everything would travel. But yeah, that looks like those are kind of the all-in-ones. That's
Yeah, those are slick. Made by a company out in California called Acme Portable.
I've seen them. All right, we looked into that. They also had ones that like had the screens that fold out, kind of like a book, right?
Yeah.
Those are pretty sweet. A little pricey, but I like them.
Oh yeah.
Everything has a price.
When you spend $3,000 or $4,000 just on an empty case, you know that you've arrived at a different level.
Well, and when you ask them for prices and you're like, yeah, just give us a call, you know you're in trouble. Can't
Not willing to share their price on the phone or online,
or to my face.
I've always said like, if I can't find out the price myself, I can't afford it, because if they want me to call and tell me a little bit about what you want, then it's like, I know I'm already out of my league here. I can't handle this.
Well, and we used to run into that problem all the time. And finally, I just simply said, okay, I'm going to put some sample systems on our website.
Yeah.
So if you want to get an idea what the prices are, here you go. But most likely we're going to customize it for whatever it is you need it to do.
Right.
And the price will get you in the ballpark, and people will then self-select and say, that's something we can do. In fact, we could do a little more if we wanted to get more. And other people will say, I can't even afford half that. So they'll try to find another plan.
Yeah.
Like from a business standpoint, you give people too much information and they become paralyzed trying to analyze it all. Or you don't give them enough, and then they can't make a decision because they don't have enough info.
Yeah, and that's kind of like a big part of like my job at BirdDog, like as a sales engineer, is literally trying to read the customer and where they're at knowledge wise, right? And not either A, not overwhelm them, or B, not give them nothing.
Right.
And it's kind of a dance and just trying to figure out where you need to be and who you're talking to. And I'm sure you go through that every day. And
just the terminology you use.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you have to kind of find the level, right, of which to speak to. And so whether it's,
are we going to speak this part of English, or are we going to speak this part of English?
Yeah. And some people, sometimes you'll get people that say you need to start speaking English, or explain it to me like I'm 5.
Well, we run into that a lot. I don't know, maybe CJ, you can talk about this from the BirdDog side, but I find that we run into that a fair bit, because people call us up, or they'll email us and they'll say, I have a BirdDog camera and it's going into my OBS system, and now I want to buy 4 more. And I'm like, okay, what are you using for your network stuff? And they're like, oh, well, the network's good. And I'm like, hang on, because it's not. So like when people buy the product, they run it on like a basic system, they love it, and it's working for them, and it only costs them, currently $2,000 to buy that P200. And so it's like, this is great. Now we've got a budget. We got $8,000 budget. Boom, we're going to buy 4 more. And then you have to say like, well, hang on, because there's a good chance that we're going to max out the stuff in between. And so you maybe get 3 and buy a nice switch that's layer 3 or something like that. And I feel like there's this balance, right? Especially on the sales side of things, where it's, let's talk about what you want right now, and let's talk about where you're going in the next 6 to 12 months. And maybe like, are you going to have a reoccurring budget? Here are the things that you need to be conscious of in the future about expanding your camera environment, especially with NDI, but your camera fleet, how it handles it, how the computer can handle it. Like, we're operating at 90% CPU right now. And so it's a little, I probably won't be able to do a whole lot more than, what I'm currently doing. So how do you how do you approach that from a sales point where you're not scaring people off, but saying the future is unlimited, but you need to remember these things? Is it just consciously saying that in your spiel, or do you have a way to set it up with the customer to where they'll naturally come to that conclusion? I'm just always curious, because oftentimes we do that where they'll buy extra cameras and then we're like, well, there's a reason why it's skipping and dropping frames now, because you're running 800 megabits a second instead of 140.
Yeah, I think it's really mostly context and talking with them, because you can do emails and stuff with pre-sales. What I do is I always try to get on a call with them, because I can't get what all they need over an email.
Yeah.
So generally when I talk, in a good use case I've had is like, I'll talk to schools, which generally will have tiered budgets per year.
Right.
So like I had a college that was looking to do track and field, and they're like, well, we have, this X amount of budget this year, but we'd like to build to this. So what's like a good place to start? And so generally that's kind of where I'll be, okay, we're on a budget. And then usually my head goes to vMix when I hear that, because that's like the best bang for buck you can get. If they have a big budget and they want user friendly and stuff, I'll go like the TriCaster route. And this is all NDI talk. But in that regards, I'll say, you can get these 3 cameras, we can get this switch. And I'll usually recommend the bigger switch now, just because I'll explain, like, you want to be future proofed. And if you want to add 4 more cameras, you can, right? And so then they'll go, oh, okay. And generally they won't be like, well, I want, 12 cameras next year or something like that. And if it is the case, I'm like, okay, we need to take a step back. Right. So it's really just getting context of the story and what they're trying to achieve. Rarely they'll say, sometimes you get people that I'll do like a pretty base spec. They'll get it and like, wow, this is amazing. Like, I want to do more. And then we'll either just do the same thing over again, or we'll build it and scale it out higher. But yeah, it's mostly just getting context for what they're trying to do. And it's such an individual basis thing. There's not a one size fits all, which is great, because that's why I like the BirdDog devices, because it's not a one size fits all camera. You can do SDI, NDI, HDMI, right? And so I'll tell people, well, let's start with HDMI or SDI, and then we'll build into the NDI world, right? And you can kind of use it as a stepping stone. So, it's really nice to be able to have that flexibility. And I'm sure, like, with, when Tom talks to customers, it's the same thing, just getting their context of their story and what they're trying to achieve. And that kind of helps them take the direction.
So you're really taking the extra time then to understand the needs today and potentially tomorrow, so that you're not rehashing out things that you already talked about this year, like you said, unless they go to the nth degree. Networking is kind of like that. And I should bring this up, that John dreams about his server room the way that other people imagine they're dreaming vacations. It's true. The network stuff is, I would rather send small amounts of data down multiple paths than large amounts of data down few paths. And so my theory is buying, a decent size, like you said, a larger switch. And so that's fine. But if we are expanding and rolling out, then we start talking about aggregate links or lag, connections between systems. And that way it keeps those devices only doing a little bit of processing each. You spread the workload over multiple devices. Whereas people buy a 24 port switch and they think, I can run 24 cameras on this thing. It's like, well, hang on. That's not what that is. So most of it's data, but not high octane cameras. And even PTZ Optics and New Tech and those guys, like, there is a hardware limit to switches. So I'm just always curious as to how that gets approached, because in my ideal world, but money is a very real thing, and budgets are a part of most people's lives, and so you have to approach it in some sense of reality. But anyways, appreciate that. Or not. I guess
it's no fun.
Tom's model is just quote the heavens and
throw it out the window.
That's right. That's right.
I'm pretty sure this is Judson. What's going on, man? Good to see you. And Matthias says, hey, I've seen those Acme portables. They're not cheap. A great box for a build out for military spec. There you go.
Military spec equals high school.
Yeah, well, you need military spec for high school students, man. Those guys are brutal on equipment.
That is, yes.
We've had cameras come back that are just totally smashed. And they're like, yeah, a student took it off a tripod. And I was like, oh boy. So that's a tough conversation.
On a dirt bike track or something.
Yeah, well, we've had those too, where they came back from Coachella or whatever, and there's full of sand.
Oh gosh. Yeah, that would be bad.
And I was like, Brayton undid the bottom plate, and there was like sand in the plate. We were like, wonder why this camera's not working anymore.
I had a friend that used to do hunting videos. So he would go out when the guys would deer hunt.
Yeah.
And he said, you'd be out in the boonies and a rainstorm would come up and, you were there. There was no ducking for shelter.
Nope.
And they'd get back to the hunting camp at night and he'd open the camera and just pour the water out of it.
Oh my word.
And then use it the next day.
Yeah.
It was, he said, I always made sure I sold my cameras after the end of the year.
Right.
Because they wouldn't make it through a second season.
Yeah. I've done a little bit of that on an amateur level. I have a bunch of friends that liked hunting, and I wasn't really much of a hunter when I started. And so, but I was really into video. And so I would take a video camera out into the woods and actually videotape their hunts. And I learned quickly that you need at least like plastic bags and stuff, because it's going to rain at some point. You're going to get your equipment wet. And if you're borrowing that equipment, you want to probably try and preserve that.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I don't loan my cameras.
Yeah. Yeah. We'll let you purchase them at this point, right?
Yep. That's right.
Very good. Well, we have taken up the hour that I asked from you, Tom. So I really appreciate that for you spending some time with us, and we are really grateful for that, man. And I am planning on joining Tom on his channel for all of you who just can't get enough of this. On the 12th of October, is that right?
October 12th. It's a Wednesday.
It's a Wednesday afternoon.
3:00 Eastern.
Yep, and we will. We'll hang out together over there.
And all you have to do is Google streaming idiots and you'll get it. It can't be any simpler.
No, it's up there.
Good, but yeah.
It's definitely available. Definitely check out Tom's stuff. And like I've been doing this for a mere 3 years, almost 3 years. Tom, how long have you been running your streaming?
3 years. All right. July we celebrated 10 years.
Yeah. Yeah, you got your award, right?
I did.
That's right. There was
there on the wall.
There was a committee that came together and decided to give Tom an award for all the years of his streaming service. So, but your channel has grown like crazy. Like there's a ton of so what do you got, like 7,000 subscribers or something like that? What is it?
Something like that.
Yeah, that's unbelievable. So
I mean,
well done.
And when you think about, we're a narrow niche inside of a narrow niche inside of another narrow niche industry. So
yeah, I never really started this with the intention of getting like a whole bunch of people to. I just figured it'd be good to be available for a couple hours a week, and if people wanted to talk in real time about stuff, then by all means. And then it's kind of evolved into, especially with the hiring of our sales engineers and more channel managers and guys over in Australia, it's just kind of evolved into something more than just me sitting on. I used to run this for 3 hours from my home in Clarkston. I used to sit in my office online for 3 hours, just available, just sitting there available for people to ask me a question in real time. It was kind of like an open phone, if you will.
Sure.
But it's gotten down to, okay, we do an hour and we try and produce something of semi-decent quality. And
but
then,
here's the thing, John, you're using your gear.
Yes.
So you're now an official user. You're not just tech support. You're not just, a company guy. You have real life experience in, I've got a P400 staring me right in the face, and somebody calls up and wants to know about that P400. I can tell them, oh yeah, I use that camera every day.
Right.
Every day. I leave it on 24/7. It's that little fan that I hear whirring in the background when I leave the office. That's the P400.
I don't,
the P120 over there. I use that. Well, it stays on 24/7, but I use it at least twice a week.
Right.
I can tell you about this gear because I use this gear.
Yeah.
I can't tell you how many folks are out there that are going to sell you something and maybe they've never even seen it.
Oh
real
man,
life.
I can tell you.
Yeah,
because we deal with that all the time. Where guys are like, "I sold this camera, but I don't know how to plug it in." It's like, wait, what?
yeah.
Like, you don't have to plug in the camera and get it working? Do you know what
But they
studio
read the
monitor
spec
is?
sheet.
Well,
Come
yeah,
on.
exactly. It's like, well, the Sony lens is what we wanted. It's like, okay, well, that's
Yeah.
interesting. That's an interesting use, but there is definitely a lack of education, which BirdDog is going to address. There's a lack of education when it comes to NDI and just getting off the ground and getting comfortable with it. And every product, there's actually after CJ and Jake came on here in the US, then they started generating a lot of videos about, hey, here's how you do these things.
Yeah, good stuff.
Yeah, and so
Good
that's
stuff.
we've seen a really high viewership of those items and like a lot of reception, and so we want to kind of take that up again. And
Those will have a long tail too.
yeah. Well,
Because people will continue to refer. I mean, VMix did videos, I don't know, 10 years ago, longer. And those things are still getting hundreds and hundreds of hits from people that want to go back and see what it was. How did that used to work?
Yeah, we're really interested in making sure that when somebody opens a box of a product of ours, they have at their fingertips the resources they need to know how to use it the way it was intended to be used. And then if they want to deviate from that path, like, we can discuss that. But you should never reach out to like BirdDog support and be like, I don't know how to plug it in. Because well, first of all, you don't know what you've bought, but also shame on us for not telling you how to plug it in before you purchased it, right? Like, so it's a little like, for me, I'm like, no, I want to take that, and I want to be sure that doesn't happen anymore, because people should know what they're getting, and they're getting a great lens with a great picture, and they're getting a lot of versatility. They're turning this into network ones and zeros, network data, and now you have this extremely flexible protocol that you can convert to SRT and send across the world. I can host this show over BirdDog Cloud and have guys in real time talking to me from Melbourne, and it's just that versatile. But if you don't know what you bought, you just don't know, and we need to get those resources out there. So that's I'm going on record to say I'm going to work on fixing that.
Any idiot with a credit card and a B&H photo account can be full of bird dogs and not know anything about it.
Yep, they sure can. There are a lot of folks that buy them because they're actually they're quite highly spoken of around, just even in the streaming circles and whatever, the camera line. So people go to B&H and buy it. And that's exactly the type of customer actually that we get a lot of questions about. Hey, I bought this thing, but I plugged it into the network, but I have no idea what I'm doing. And so yeah, we need to fix that.
I use my Cat 5 cable.
Yeah.
Why didn't it power up?
Yeah, I plugged it into the wall port. It's not turning on. It's like, well, where does that wall port go? Yeah, there's some networking questions there, right, that we have to address. But anyway, so yeah, we're it's true. When you use it all the time, then it becomes a little bit more second nature. I just don't want to lose sight of those folks that don't use it all the time. Like, I want to get them to a place where but
it makes you authentic.
Yeah.
You're not just a sales guy. You're not just there because your good looks. You're there because you really have knowledge about what's going on.
Well, we know why.
All the difference.
Yeah, that's not why I'm here. That's for sure. And CJ would probably.
I was talking about CJ.
Oh yeah, me too. He would roll his eyes if I were to try and sales pitch anything, because I'm terrible at it. But because I run support. That's how that works. So I'm the guy that knows how to fix it if it goes wrong. It goes south.
You gotta be in the weeds to really understand it. So that's that's what I did. I was the guy in the field plugging it in. So I can be like, I know this works, or I know this is, there's some steps you got to do to make it work, and it's not always just black and white. Plug it in, and it, like, what's NDI tools? I need to install that. Like, there's little steps. So.
Yeah, and just even resources and whatever. And that's kind of like where I come full circle here is CJ's on the pre-sales team. So if you were to email sales@bird-dog.tv or birddog.tv, CJ's one of the guys that checks out those emails and helps guys get it. So if you've got BirdDog specific stuff. However, Tom is a national installer, designer, all that sort of good. Tom, where can they reach you if they want to ask you more about system design or buying cameras or anything? Where can they reach you?
Don't call. Don't email.
Don't call Tom.
Don't bother us.
Yeah, you're right. You're not good at this sales pitchy thing either.
No, it's the old psychological, tell them not to call so they will.
Yeah.
Reverse psychology. It's easternshorebroadcasting.com.
Awesome.
Very long URL.
Eastern Shore like this one, actually.
Like that one.
I had it in the show. Yes, I put it in the show yesterday. I totally forgot I did that.
Oh, that's awesome. You even spelled it all right too.
I copied it from your website.
Oh, okay.
So there it is. If you want to learn more about Tom and his company and his business, also check out his YouTube channel, Streaming Idiots. He named it, not us. So he is over there once a week, right? Wednesdays
at 3:00 Eastern.
3:00 Eastern. And you're in Central Time, right? So 2:00 Central.
2:00 Central.
Awesome. So
in California, like 5 a.m. in Australia.
Yeah, I can't get the Australians to come on this show. It's 1:30 in the morning. Let's see, it's 2:17 right now in Melbourne. So I did a show when I was in Melbourne, part of that bumper video, where it was 1:00 in the morning, and I was doing snacks on stream that day and ate Vegemite, and decided that wasn't for me. So that was a terrible experience to do in the middle of the night, and then try to sleep for a few hours and go back and be useful the next day at work. So yeah. It was a bad combination of stuff, but anyways, we do what we can, I guess. I just want to cover up a couple things. What's going on, Quincy? Yeah, you are very welcome. Thanks for stopping by. I just want to jump in here and throw this. I had someone ask me for help with their new P200. They basically just use it for a point and shoot, no network. They had no idea that it was even a network camera. They just used the HDMI out. So I opened their eyes and they fell in love with it even more. That's amazing. Well done. South Australia, 1:47 a.m. So yeah, that's the sort of stuff that like we run into a little more often. Is they're like, well, we bought the cameras, but we just want to use the HDMI. It's like, really?
You can do that.
You can.
That's fine.
You can 100% do that. That's totally fine. Thank you for buying the product, but like, also let me show you a video. Like here, look at how versatile this is. And so, they don't want to use the NDI function yet, but they're hoping to in the future. Anyways, check out Tom's resources there, Eastern Shore Broadcasting, also the Streaming Idiots channel. Great place to be, a good community to join. So be sure that you hang out there with them. Feel free, of course, to join us here at BirdDogJohn.tv. Thank you, Beep Chirp, for that DNS redirect. We are here twice a week, 11 to 12 or 11 to 12:20, actually. Eastern time every week. And so we try and do that a little more often. Now, next week, you're not going to want to miss next week's shows because I've got Bird Dog Jake on the show twice. I've booked him twice, which is unbelievable. And the first session we're going to do is Bird Dog Cloud 3.0, which is the new version of Cloud. And so he's going to give us the hottest items that he can fit into a whole hour. I'm going to invite him on the show, and then I'm just going to like take my video off and let him run, because his rig at his place is awesome, and it runs vMix and does all the cloud stuff. And so he's going to walk us through a whole bunch of stuff with Bird Dog Cloud. And then on Thursday, he's going to come back and show us the new Central software. So if you are curious about Central Pro, the new beta that's currently out, if you're on our mail list, you probably got an email yesterday, I think, or the day before, that said Central Pro is now available. And so Central 2.0, my apologies, it is in beta right now. And there are 3 levels. So there's a light, a pro, and an enterprise model. Check out our website for the details on that. But on Thursday, Jake, as long as he's feeling healthy and all is well, then he will join us next week on Thursday to talk about Central as well. And we'll be able to get a good overview of all of that. So looking forward to those shows. And like I said, next week, Tom will have a show on Wednesday, and we will plan to hang out again. So thanks, guys. Thanks for jumping on. I really appreciate you guys joining me today. Hopefully you found something beneficial. And yeah, we'll wrap it up. Thanks so much. I really appreciate it. And we will see all of you again next Tuesday at 11 o'clock Eastern Standard Time right here at BirdDogJohn.tv. Be well. Take care of yourselves. And we will see you shortly. Have a great weekend, everybody. Later.
All right, go. Okay, the P200 has a fantastic Sony image module. It gives you 30 times zoom, great for any size room. It's great in low light and has awesome color rendition. On top of that, we have our BirdDog NDI processing engine, which gives you the highest quality pictures at the lowest latency. It's compatible with any NDI device on the planet and just gives you the best outputs. We have our brand new user interface with NDI version 5, which gives you waveforms and vector scopes to make sure you're properly exposed. It also gives you unlimited control as far as color control and using your camera. In addition to this, it sounds strange, but we can do pan, tilt and zoom at the same time. Try some other cameras, they can't all do it. The P200 is a fantastic camera that's got every type of connection you can want, from NDI with power over Ethernet, SDI, HDMI, any control interface. It's got a great big tally on the top. It's a really great camera. How to do with the time? And the cool thing is, for a limited time, if you buy 3 P200s, you get a free PTZ controller.